Welcome, everyone. On behalf of Syracuse University's Whitman School of Management, let me welcome you to our virtual talk called A Global Business and a Global Career with our guest speaker, Christelle Mombo-Zigah with Cisco. My name is Natalia Żeglinska, adjunct professor at Whitman J School of Management. And our other panelist is Peter Kovios, the chair of Kiebach International Business Center at Whitman and professor of finance. First and foremost, I would like to welcome our guest, Christelle. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us and to all other participants on the call here. Please, I yield the floor to you. Feel free to start introducing yourself. And in the meantime, I invite the participants to start submitting your questions to the chat so we can get back to them. Right after Christelle's introduction.
Thank you very much, Natalia and Peter, for having me and the whole Syracuse University. It is a great honor for me to speak about not only the amazing company I work for, but also about myself and my global career. So for this presentation, which I really want it to be a conversation, the plan is for me to start by talking about Cisco, and then to move into a little bit about myself and what led me into becoming a global leader and having a global career. I really would like also to allow 30 minutes for Q&A and be able to answer all questions you might have. I'm very excited to answer any questions and to be of any help. You will also have in the chat my LinkedIn profile. I am very active on LinkedIn. I think this is a great way for us to continue the conversation, even after the conversation that we are going to have. So let me start by introducing myself very quickly, and then I will go back and talk more about my role. So my name is Christelle Mombo-Zigah. I am based out of San Jose in California. I was born and raised in France. I have been in the United States for 12 years already. Time flies. I work at Cisco Systems, and I am a senior global enterprise customer success programs manager. It's a very long title. It just means that I work in customer success at the moment. I'm responsible for global enterprise customers. And I have more than 15 years of experience, professional experience in total. So about Cisco in a nutshell first, let me move that, okay. So Cisco is a Fortune 500 company. It was established in 1984. It started as a startup in the Silicon Valley, and it was created by two Stanford students who actually got married. Let me get back to their names, Leonard Buzak and Sandra Lerner. Cisco is a global company. It generated in the fiscal year 2021, $50 billion of revenue. It is presented, it does business in 95 countries. There are 389 offices globally, and it represents more than 80,000 employees. I also wanted to share the drill down of our revenues per regions, just for you to see that it is still a heavily concentrated business in the United States. 60% of the revenues are actually concentrated in the Americas, where we work and we do business with 17 countries in the Americas region, including North America and Latin America, South America. We work with 61 countries in what we call EMER, including Europe, the Middle East region, and Africa. And we represent 15% or we generate 15% of our revenues in 17 countries in the APJC regions, which is the Asian Pacific, Japan and Chinese market. Cisco is also a people first company. And this week we received again another reward from the Fortune World's Best Workplace as the #1 place position. So Cisco has been ranked again this year in 2022 as the #1 first or best workplace to work for. And this is not only a place that we are rewarded in the United States. With our global presence, you see that Cisco is also a great place to work and usually achieve the number one, number two, or three ranking across different regions we are in. And if I remember correctly, actually in Italy, Cisco has been the number one best place to work for 5 consecutive years or even more. From a supply chain perspective, I was looking at your curriculum and you do study supply chain, and you are, I'm sure, concerned and aware of all the supply chain issues which have come from the pandemic. So Cisco, yes, is definitely and has been affected by supply chain and supply chain shortages. But we are selling our solutions all around the world. And we do have logistic hubs and manufacturing sites along with global repair sites in multiple regions as well. Cisco was granted the first position from Gartner as a global supply chain #1 company as well, thanks to our logistics and manufacturing facilities around the world, which are giving us the ability to serve all our different customers and to serve all the different markets we are in. So you have a few numbers. We work with 600 plus suppliers in the world. We receive more than 5,000 orders daily, and we deliver more than 40,000 orderable items from a supply chain perspective. So moving into our Cisco strategic pillar, those are investments Cisco has decided to focus on to remain competitive in the next few years and in the next 3 years. So we are listening to our customers and our partners, and we adapt to our customers and partners' need. Actually, Cisco for the past 3 years have been going through a digital transformation and has not only decided to move from its main business, which was to power the internet through networking devices and networking appliances, into transforming itself into what we call a recurring revenue company and a SaaS company. So through these digital transformations, we have decided to pursue 6 main strategic pillars. The first one being ensuring that our networks and our the ability to provide and to offer networking capabilities to our customers is being done in an agile, which means in an iterative way, and it is also being provided in a secured way. We are focused on optimizing our application experiences. So we do understand that as much as we are the company who have been responsible for, again, powering the internet through the different devices that we are providing across the world, we have a good understanding that our customers are also leveraging applications that we have on our phones and on our tablets and laptops. And we help our customers better optimizing their applications experiences. Future of work is definitely a big priority for us. Within our portfolio, we have a collaboration technology, which is called WebEx, which I hope you know, which helps us communicate and handles meeting remotely. And it was definitely something that we used heavily, and we've been using since heavily even more during the pandemic. So the future of work is everything related to hybrid work. How are we going to make sure that we are connecting everyone, and not only the employees and the customers and the partners who are working in the office, but the ones who are going to continue to work remotely? How are we going to ensure that everyone can be connected and do its work to the best of their capabilities? Internet for the future, we are definitely looking into 5G and 6G capabilities and working with different partners in the field. The security is, as I was saying in the very beginning, also one of our strategic pillars. So those are our main areas of focus, where Cisco is, again, investing heavily to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our customers and partners. I also wanted to share some of our customer social responsibility focus area and priorities. As I said in the beginning, Cisco is a people-first company. And everything that we do at Cisco embodies actually our focus and our goal and our purpose to ensure the well-being of our employees, our customers, and our partners. And this comes with the concept that we launched a little bit before the pandemic, actually, which is the leading a conscious culture. How can we make sure that everyone in the world feels included? How can we embrace diversity and equity in the workplace and also outside? How can we be thought leader in the field and also invite the public and private sectors to embrace diversity and inclusion in general and equity? Integrity and trust is in everything that we do. That's what enabled us to be not only the #1 according to Gartner from a global supply chain perspective, but also one of the best places to work. Trust is very important in the way we handle our business. As employees, we go through annually trainings just to make sure that we do and we handle our business the right way. The circular economy, obviously, and the environmental impact. So making sure that we are focused on some of the biggest imperatives of the centuries around climate change and delivering supply chain excellence in terms of avoiding any type of waste, in terms of reducing any gas which could impact or contribute to any global warming side effects. And last but not least, the concept of technology for good. Again, everything that we do is to ensure the well-being of our employees, our customers, our partners, and the rest of the world. So it is very important for us to ensure that the technologies that we put in the market is not going to act in the detriment of the society and the humanity in general. So those are some of our areas and priorities from a corporate social responsibility perspective. All right, so that was in a very nutshell, a quick presentation of Cisco, and I wanted to now move into myself. And before digging into who I am and what led me into a global career, and I see myself as a global individual, and you will learn a little bit later. I think that we need to acknowledge, and I wouldn't do any service in not acknowledging that the future has changed forever. The future is uncertain, and the world has changed forever. I know that we've been going through a lot over the past 2 years, and all those informations continue to come our way. Definitely thinking about you being based in New York and the very recent Brooklyn attack as an example. During the pandemic, something that I learned is that as much as I wanted to remain a professional, I wouldn't be and put myself in a position where I would just handle business as usual while everything and a lot of things are happening in the world. So that is going to be one of the focus of my personal presentation. I think that as a global leader, you need to be aware of what is happening. And this is part of your work. This is part of your life. And this is part of, the different direction that you take when you handle any business priorities and focus. So as I was saying, we are in an extremely volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. We are all aware, obviously, of the war in Ukraine, and Cisco has definitely taken a big stance on helping the population in Ukraine and in the bordering countries. I think that from a highly complex world, one fourth of the world today is going through conflicts, wars, and nuclear threats. There are a lot of additional countries which are not necessarily mentioned in mainstream medias that we all need to acknowledge, such as the war in Tigray in Ethiopia, where famine and starvation are now happening as we speak. the war in Yemen, the war in Myanmar. So I think that the reason why I'm talking about it is because as a global leader, it's very important to have not only a one-sided view of the world, but to really being receptive to all the different informations and to really be aware of everything which is happening in the world. We've been going through the pandemic and we are still in the pandemic. I know that Shanghai is going through a big lockdown at the moment. So as much as in the US, we are feeling or taking some kind of fresh air, there are other places where the pandemic is still very much prevalent, and it's still impacting our business and more specifically our supply chain and even the inflation rate in the country. And last but not least, before talking about myself, and you will see why I'm talking about it, we all need to acknowledge that we've been going through a health crisis, but also multiple additional pandemics, including the racial reckoning and with the killing of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and other killings in between and which are continuing. So again, as a leader, we need to decide whether we want to continue to do business as usual or whether in the work that we do, we want to start taking into considerations everything which is happening in the world and which is being considered as a VUCA world in the way we want to present ourselves, the way we want to handle our business, and the way we want to create the right technologies to address some of the different challenges we are facing in the world. The way I wanted to introduce myself today, more specifically, after having talked about Cisco and its purpose and its strategic pillars, its global presence, I wanted to talk about myself through a very different lens than the one that you usually see about, okay, this is what I do and this is what I have. I think that during the pandemic, something that a lot of people have started to do has been to reflect more on who they were. And they realized that, and me in particular, for me, as I said in the beginning, my work was my life and my life was my work. And then when things started to get blurry during the pandemic between my life and my work and, burnout was definitely a part of some of the thing that a lot of professionals and myself included went through. I just decided to just shift the paradigm and to remove myself from defining only myself through what I had or what I was doing, but really starting to relearn who I was to be able to navigate again within highly VUCA world through all the vulnerability, the volatility, and there are some uncertainties and ambiguity from just the world we live in. So let me just by taking and leveraging the concept of resilient mindset, starting by talking about myself, who I am, where I grew up, where I come from, and what led me into becoming a global leader and embracing a global career. So I was born and raised in France. I definitely have a dual heritage. I know about my history, not through what I heard or what I was taught at school, but more through some of the additional learnings that I did and I continue to do. So I know that I am coming from a kingdom, which was called the Congo Kingdom. I'm coming from a history of deportation and the regions where my parents are from, which is on the border of the Atlantic, more specifically, was directly affected by centuries of deportation through the slave trades. I'm coming also from a history of depopulation through multiple colonization, including the colonization from Portugal and the colonization from Belgium. And I know that today, DRC is going through a lot of war and illegal trade. So this is part of my history. And knowing my history is also a way for me to feel the world into multiple perspectives and to continue to build this resiliency from a mindset perspective. I definitely also acknowledge my French culture. I was born and raised in France, in the north of France, in Picardy, actually, and French is my native tongue, my native language. I grew up in France, and I actually left France in my mid-20s when I moved to the United States. I have three siblings, two brothers and one sisters. My dad was a PhD, and that's how he was a PhD in linguistics, and that's how he moved from the DRC Congo into France through a scholarship. My mom was a teacher in elementary school, I think, or middle school. When I was younger, growing up, I wanted to be MacGyver. I am in the middle of my siblings. I have an older sister, an older brother, and I know that I had this passion for solving problems, and I was solving every single problems in the house, always bringing new ideas, always finding creative ways. So MacGyver was just my hero. I also know that I wanted to become a writer. Coming again from, a family where my dad was a PhD in linguistics, going to school, getting a high education, being highly educated, reading books was definitely part of my upbringing. And I was writing very small stories at a very young age, just to express myself, and maybe also from a cathartic standpoint. I've always been passionate about history in general, and I like to read history through multiple angles and different point of view, not only from the conquerors, but also from the people who experience some of the conquests. Passionate about languages. I'm from Europe, so there is nothing, and I'm sure there are a few of you who are from Europe, so nothing very exceptional in Europe to speak multiple languages, but I do speak French, English, and Spanish. I understand additional languages. I understand Italian. I understand Portuguese, which I continue to learn. I love travels, and following the steps of my dad, I'm very much interested in linguistics also, and I like to read everything around all the different worlds from Portuguese and from France, who are currently used in multiple Congolese dialects. I've never been in the Congo myself, and that's on my bucket list. I lived in multiple places, and I lived and studied in Stockholm, so I took a little bit of Swedish. I can speak a little bit of it as well. I lived in Miami, and I am already currently living in the Silicon Valley. From a travel perspective, I had a chance to visit 11 countries, which is not a lot. I was very disappointed when I realized that I only visited the different countries plus Sweden that you see on the screen. Definitely looking to going and visit the country of my roots in DRC, but also visit other continents. Very much interested in Asian culture, Latin American culture, and continue to practice my Spanish and learn Portuguese. My priorities in life, and I really realized what my priorities were over the past 2 years during the pandemic. So family is number one. And again, in the past, work was number one, my number one priority. And then I realized that it was not necessarily anymore just the way I wanted to continue to operate, or maybe at this level of my career and at my age. Number two is going back to my passions for reading. So those are some of the things that I do aside from work. I'm currently writing and publishing children's books. One is already available on Amazon and on different medium. I'm writing 2 additional ones, and I love it because I am a very creative person. I am a problem solver, and I actually source my creativity through different activities. And I am able to innovate even today at Cisco through the different additional activities outside of just thinking about work that I'm undertaking, and writing is one of them. If I was not working, I think that I would focus myself on becoming a hyper polyglot. And a hyper polyglot is someone who speaks at least fluently 6 and more languages. So I'm getting there, and that's definitely something that I might continue to do even while working, but in an ideal world, that would be my main priority, to become a hyper polyglot. I'm reading a lot about it currently, and I know that their brain is just being, their brain is stimulated differently and connected differently. And I think it's definitely passionating. Last but not least, on top of being an hyper polyglot, I would also focusing myself at being a global citizen. Those would be the two things that I would do if I was not working. But I am working, and I love what I do. So just to give you a little bit more about my curriculum, my education and personal information, along with what I do at work. So I studied international economics at La Sorbonne University. I wanted to go to a business school, didn't have the financial means, and my parents were actually already very much investing in the studies of my older brother. So I went to La Sorbonne, and I really enjoyed it. And that's when I had a chance to meet a cohort of students from all around the world, and to really start looking and addressing some of the pressing issues in the world, from an economic standpoint, but also from a social standpoint. I met Natalia at Stanford Graduate School of Business, where I recently graduated from the Stanford Lead Executive Program, which is a one-year accelerated executive MBA. I did it during the pandemic. I did it with myself having two daughters below the age of 5. I did it because when I moved to the United States, one of my dreams was to pursue additional education and to study in a business school. I had studied in a public university at La Sorbonne. I wanted to study in a business school, so that's the reason why. And Stanford in the Silicon Valley was just making the most sense for me. And I really appreciated the additional learning that I gained through those past 12 months of hard work and dedication. So at Cisco, what I do, so again, currently I am a global success programs manager for global enterprise companies, mainly in the tech industry. So most of my customers are in the west of the United States, and most of them are technology companies. So my role is to really understand what their business outcomes and business priorities are, and to align with their business outcomes all the different solutions that they have already purchased, and make sure that I accelerate their path to value realization. So I help our customers adopting our technologies, and some of our technologies can be extremely complex. And everything that I do is in the pursuit in improving the customer experience, but also making sure that our customers are remaining loyal to us and continue to grow with our Cisco technologies. This is not the only role that I did at Cisco. And I like to show this page, and I use it usually in a lot of professional settings, just to talk about me and what I do. This is the official version. This is my one pager when I introduce myself, about what I do, where I'm coming from, what I studied, what my studies have been, and what kind of degrees I have. And but when you look at my journey was not linear. My journey really looked like that, in terms of starting my professional journey in France, and then moving to the United States in Miami, working for a very small company, traveling by myself in my late 20s to open an office for this French subsidiary, and to start developing the business in the North American market, including the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico, and leveraging all different 3 languages that I speak. Moving to California, embracing another industry, working in the baking industry, which I didn't like that much, getting married in the process, and then joining the tech industry, having my first daughter, leaving Cisco, working at Gartner, going back to Cisco, having my second daughter, and now working in CX. So just wanted to share, and the slides will be available to you. I want to be available to you also if you want to, if you have additional questions. But I just wanted to tell you that my career was not linear. I joined the tech industry because when I moved to California and I was working in the banking industry with emerging technologies, and I was helping all startup entrepreneurs from Europe who wanted to open offices in the Silicon Valley. And I was connecting them with the Silicon Valley ecosystem. That's when on LinkedIn, Cisco Meraki contacted me, and that's how I joined the tech industry. And I learned about, the technology products that Cisco are offering, and how to better address the needs of our customers from a technology standpoint. Again, the slides will be available, and I'm definitely open to pursue the conversation. We might have to do it again, I don't know, but there have been a lot of disruptions and disconnections, but it is just a part of the world we live in, I guess. So people who are asking about what is next for me, again, I graduated from Stanford a few weeks ago. I think that, again, the whole pandemic, the paradigm shift that I was talking about in terms of really defining who you are, really understanding what your values are, really understanding what matters to you. My next step is really still to work in the tech industry, but really finding a way to better align my work, my value, and my purpose. My purpose is very clear. It is to inspire the next generation's leaders. I am a mentor. I help a lot of our leaders, just defining their career, and I don't have all the answers and all the solutions, and I'm still myself learning and navigating through the world we live in. But my next step is really to continue to better align what my values are. And my core values are curiosity, empathy, courage, and the courage to have sometimes difficult conversations. And from a curiosity's perspective, not only having one-sided view of the world, but really very being receptive to all the different informations, and leveraging everything that you learn to continue to innovate and to continue to solve problems, and to look at problems in a different way. If I had to end this conversation, from a lessons perspective, what I would recommend you, and that's something that I wish I had known, at a very early age, and if I could find a way to help you accelerate where you are in your career, once you complete your education, the first one would be to be curious and to stay curious. We all need to remain lifelong learner. That's the reason why I went back to school. That's the reason why I continue to pursue additional studies and education on the side. You need to be curious. You need to be receptive to the world, to be a problem solver, to be innovative, and to be inclusive in the process. Knowing yourself, which is according to Socrates, the path to wisdom. Who we were and who I was as a student in international business and international economics might not be who I am today. So knowing yourself means obviously understanding your core, your values, but also understand that you are going to change and evolve over time. I see myself as someone who reinvents and redefines myself every day. Because I am curious and I remain open. I value anyone's opinions, and I agree to disagree. I think that we need to be respectful for other opinions, and this respect comes from respect towards others comes from understanding who we are and what our values are and what our non-negotiables are. And last but not least, network relentlessly. I know that when I started my career in sales, I was a serial networker. I needed to find new customers, new partners. And when I moved into different other roles, in corporate development, in less customer-facing roles, I lost track of using and leveraging a network. If I had to close this conversation, I would strongly recommend you to start networking now among yourself, but also to continue to network even when you jump into a professional career. Working hard is definitely going to be needed at the very early stage of your career just to show your value. But at some point, if you want to evolve and get to and aspire to to a higher role at higher level, having a network is definitely going to be your main differentiator. There is one quote that I like to use, and I will end with this one from one of our professors at Stanford, Professor Babashiv, who is a professor of customer experience with the neuroscience perspectives. He usually says, within your network, you need to have three types of people. Number one, people who know more than you so that you can learn from them. Number two, people who know how much as you know, so that you can practice with them. And number three, people who know less than you so that you can teach. So that would be the final word. I know that I didn't get the chance to go through the whole presentation, and I had to rush at the end due to technical issues. And I now look forward to continuing the conversation and answering some of the questions and feedback and comments that you might have.
And we had plenty of questions coming in, Christelle. Thank you so much for this insightful and very, very authentic conversation that you've been having with us today. One of the questions here from Maya is, how specifically has your global background supported your career today?
So thank you. That's a very good one. I think that I realized that I was a global leader at a very young age when I developed this passion for foreign languages. So this passion for foreign languages was one of the best ways for me to connect with people from different culture. And having this cultural awareness, cross-cultural awareness, being able to understand the cultures of different markets, and I pretty much work across all markets except Africa, actually, has been a big differentiator for me. I am able to do business across all continents through my language abilities, but also my cultural awareness. And that has been one of the ways I have been able to embrace this global career. I was able to be sent from France to the United States by this very small company, specialized actually in reusable shopping bags. I wanted to sell the world and reduce the consumption of plastic bags. So that's what the company was doing. Because I could speak English, French, and Spanish fluently, I had been successful in my job the first 2 prior years. I was actually able to be sent to the United States to open an office and to continue to develop the market across those 3 different regions, in the US, in Canada, and in Puerto Rico.
All right, let me ask you a question. First of all, thank you very much for your insightful comments, and thank you for letting us in your life and your career. I have a question from Robert. It says, what has been the most impactful book that you have read, and why? Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question.
I love it. So again, the pandemic has been a catalyst for a lot of things, for me actually, at least. But for me to build this resilient mindset, I decided to focus a lot on personal development. And that's also something that I would recommend you, and happy to share my book list. So I'm from France. I am a woman. I am an immigrant, but I'm still a Black woman. I was never that much, I had not been that much exposed to racial issues in America. So the first book that I started to read during the pandemic, just to better understand the world I was in and I was evolving in, were books around racial racial dynamics in the country. So one of my favorite book that I strongly would recommend is the American History of People. I will need to get the title. So that one won. And that was on the historical side. And I love this one because it was actually history told by the conqueror, I don't want to say the victims, but not the conquerors, but the people who were actually conquered. From a personal development perspective, I've been reading a lot of Brené Brown books. The first one and one of the most powerful has been The Power of Vulnerability: How to Become Your Authentic Self and How to Find Strength and Courage in being vulnerable at the same times. From Adam Grant, I've been really enjoying Originals, which is about how people who are extremely creative can actually succeed and navigate in any corporate situations. Give and take. So how can you focus on climbing the ladders, which I still want to do, and I will continue, by really finding the balance between being a taker or being a giver, but being a giver without becoming a doormat. So really finding the balance. So really love this one. And Think Again. Think Again is, I think, my favorite book at the moment from still Adam Grant, where it just recommends us to use the two sides of our brains to develop a lot of critical analytical thinking and to be open to the world and to see the world in different ways. And Think Again is really giving you the ability to rethink, to learn and unlearn and relearn. So I really love this one. Those were a lot of books, I know, but I couldn't just mention one.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Another question that we have here is, what is the most important thing you learned in school that still helps you in your position today? And with that, I would maybe add an additional facet, a dimension to that. Have you seen, how have you experienced education in France, and whether it teaches maybe different capabilities, different sets of skills than the education that you experience here in the United States?
Thank you. So from an educational perspective, the main two differences between France and the United States would be, and those are heavily also part of the cultural differences. But I know that at least since I left, and it was 12 years ago, things might have changed a little bit. But I know that in France, usually when you get an education, the teacher has all the power, and as a student you usually are more passive, so you are not taught to communicate as much. You usually just receive all the learning from the teachers. At Stanford, which was a business school, so it's also hard to really compare a business school from a public school, a public university, but the learnings were extremely pragmatic and practical. So you were allowed to express your point of view, which was not necessarily the case when I was studying in France. So those would be the biggest differences. One thing that I learned and that I continue to use today, I think that when I studied international economics, and I studied the economics of the different markets, actually. So we had, and those were compulsory classes, so I couldn't choose. So I had to study the economics of Latin America, the economics of, Africa, the economics of Asia, North America, etc. I think that just having the ability to understand better other economical situations across different countries, across different regions, has helped me develop this awareness and this openness to the world we live in. And those are some of the things that I continue to apply. And I want to continue to apply. And something that I didn't say is that currently at Cisco, as much as I want to better align my work, my values, and my passions, I know that I still want to work in tech. And I've been doing a lot of additional readings around some of the questions relative to responsible AI. I've recently joined the Responsible AI Committee at Cisco, and we are currently actively working at not only building the principles, sorry, from a responsible AI perspective, but also how are we going to operationalize and move into the practice of those principles. And I bring this international and global view of the world in everything and all the principles that we are building at the moment. I talk about making sure that, and I don't have a lot of time to define what responsible AI is, but how can we make sure that when we are building a technology, when the algorithms are being created, when the data set is being implemented and deployed, how can we ensure that we are always looking at the full representation of the world in everything that we do? And this is really coming from the awareness of the world and the different economics and the different economic situations that I have learned throughout my studies, starting at La Sorbonne University of Paris.
Wonderful, thank you. We have one more question here about Cisco. Cisco being a global organization, so working at a large corporation like Cisco, do you feel a disconnect from the executives and main objectives of the business? If not, how does such a large firm keep a close-knit organizational structure?
Sorry, I was coughing in the middle of the question. Can you repeat the question, please? I didn't get the whole question.
Absolutely. Cisco being a global organization, operating in 60 countries, right? And now with the pandemic, many people are working remote. How does Cisco ensure that you have a close-knit organizational structure? And I believe it also, the question relates to rather, how do you have the same values going from the top management to all the teams working globally?
It's very complex. I would say that we are still learning in the process. We haven't found all the different solutions yet. We haven't been able to grasp all the different solutions. I think that we definitely have at the moment a top-down approach where all the different strategic pillars and the different corporate social responsibilities, focus areas as an examples, have been extremely clearly represented by our top leaders coming from the CEOs. So we all know where the company is going, what the directions of the companies are, and what the purpose of the company is. And the new formed purpose of Cisco today, which was created during the pandemic, is to power an inclusive future for all. So it is definitely has been well established at the top of the company. We do leverage all the middle managers, and we do expect the middle managers to continue to embody our principles and purposes. It does not always happen. And that's the reason why I believe we try to keep a line of communication open. So as Cisco employees, we are, through our now collaborations technologies such as WebEx, where we handle webinars and hybrid meetings, through our also chat capabilities, we as employees, we have the ability to connect with anyone from the leadership team to raise our concerns, to ask questions. I know that during the pandemic, twice already, I sent a note directly to the CEO of Cisco, Chuck Robbins, to raise one or two concerns that I had. So I think that we have a very clear focus on our culture and our purpose. And that's how we make sure that everyone across the 85 countries adopt the culture and the focus and the purpose. And if anyone doesn't feel being able to embrace all those biggest and highest principles, we have an opportunity to connect with the leaders directly of the company and to raise our concerns. So we are extremely transparent. We are very much open from a communication standpoint. And we also understand that it is going to require a lot of agility and a lot of iterations. We don't have all the answers, and we are all learning the process together. So there's a lot of humility as well.
Wonderful. Truly sounds like a people first company, just as you said at the beginning of the talk. Another question we have here from Jordan is, how do you think the high rate of inflation in the United States has affected the way Cisco conducts business domestically with international firms?
So we have had to raise our prices. And not necessarily across all our portfolio, but across some of the solutions where we just had to adapt to the current market we are in. I think that it is something which has happened across the board. In parallel, we have also decided to make sure that our employees were less facing the inflation by offering some additional financial aids. So we had to adapt our pricing strategy. At Cisco, we have also a financial, how do you call it? A financial organization where we help our customers and partners to consume our technologies through what we call Cisco Capital Finance. And we do offer a very flexible consumption model where our customers and partners can continue to consume our technologies. So we do offer 0 interest rates, payment capabilities, and so on and so forth. So, but we, because of the supply chain shortages and the lack of access to some components, we had to also adapt our pricing strategy and raising a few prices while still offering a flexible consumption model as well.
And how does the change of technology, so we talked about inflation, how does the change of technology affect the company strategy year to year?
I think that in a tech company, you have to adapt not only year to year, but even biannually. And as much as we are trying to have a forward-looking view of what our strategy is going to be, there's going to be disruptions. The disruptions are going to come from the market we live in, the world we live in, and some of the additional tensions and pressures that we have to face. They are going to come from our competitors. So I believe that we keep this people first mindset by really listening to what our customers needs. What our customers' needs are, what our partners' needs are, and how would they like to consume our technologies, what is top of mind for them, and not top of mind from a feature set standpoint, but what is top of mind from a business value perspective. How can we help them being successful in their business and being successful at achieving their business priorities?
Good. Do you want me to answer ask another question, Natalia, or are we all?
I would wrap up with one more question. You have I think we would have time for one more question before we have kind of the final words before the talk ends. Do you have any advice for those interested in pursuing a career in technology, as well as in innovation?
Of course. So I was looking at the curriculum, and Syracuse University is a business school. I know that a lot of people can be uncomfortable or afraid in even looking at embracing a career in the technology field because they are not computer scientists, or technology companies are businesses, and there are needs for everyone coming from a business background, and having studied supply chain and finance and accounting and business development to join technology companies. So I would say, don't shy away from technology companies because you don't have a technology background. There is actually room for non-technology people to actually run the business. The business needs to be run, and the technology company is not only about the technology innovation. From an innovation perspective, as long as you remain curious, as long as you remain open to find different ways to solve problems, I think that would be, for me, the best way to be able to move into the innovation field. I would definitely recommend you, as I said, to remain a lifelong learner. I have something to tell you, but your learning journey is really going to start after graduating from Syracuse University. You are going to really start your learning journey after. So you are learning a lot of foundational concepts, which are going to be useful for the rest of your career. But because the world is extremely volatile and uncertain, and I was actually reading 2 days ago some recommendations from a talent strategist who was saying that all new skills that we are learning today might be only relevant for 5 years. So if you want to move into the innovation field, you are going to have to remain a lifelong learner and to continue to learn constantly. Learning by remaining open and receptive to the world we live in, and find problems that you would like to address. The problem that I want to address today are really more toward how to make sure that we continue to leverage AI, artificial intelligence, in a way which is not going to be detrimental for the humanity. I'm not going to take, I don't want to say never, but I don't expect to take any computer science classes anytime soon. But I am still developing my conversational ability to understand what AI is, how it works, how it is being leveraged and used by businesses, and where are the business impacts and the business opportunities for AI, and how it can be implemented and operated in a more responsible way. So that was a very long answer, and my answers are usually very long. But yes, remain curious and be a lifelong learner if you want to move in the innovation field, and be ready to learn new things. And if one of the things is taking a few classes in computer science, just do what makes you feel comfortable. Your learning journey will really start after you graduate from business school.
And we already learned a lot from you today, Christelle. Yes. Thank you so much for joining this virtual talk with us from the West Coast. Thank you, Peter, as well. And
thank you.
This is a time where we will be wrapping up our talk. As mentioned earlier, participants, you have seen in the chat the link to Christelle's LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect and message her if you have further questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Christelle.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Definitely looking forward to pursuing the conversation offline on LinkedIn. I know that, and I saw a lot of questions that were sent to me by Natalia, and I know that I might only answer 10% of them. So definitely looking forward to continuing the engagement and answering any questions that you might have. I am a mentor. I love to assist, new generation leaders. My purpose is to inspire the next generation leaders and give a voice to the voiceless. So it was a honor for me to be part of the conversation and to be able to share a little bit about myself, a little bit about my journey, and a little bit about my career at Cisco as well.